What's up, everybody? It's your host, Blake Anthony, of Sports Talk 49. Always here to bring you something fun, exciting, and something to think about this when it comes to sports and football and everything. As you can see on the screen, I'm here with two legends, and I can't bring them on without giving them a proper legend. So tonight, everybody on Sports Talk 49, we've got absolutely two legends joining us. We'll start with Mike Deeson, a fearless investigative journalist, multi-time Emmy Award-winning, and one of the most respected watchdog reporters Tampa Bay has ever seen for decades. Mike has held power accountable and told the stories that needed to be told. Now, Al, my man Al, that's an Emmy Award-winning sports broadcaster, a true Tampa Bay media icon, and a voice many fans grew up trusting. Al's covered generation of athletes, unforgettable memories, and the evolution of sports in the city. So, ladies and gentlemen, you got two legends, two stories, one conversation you don't want to miss. Fellas, how are you doing?
Oh, thank you.
Doing great, Blake. Thank you very much for those kind words.
Yes, absolutely.
Hey, man, you put the work in. All I got to do is tell it. So, fellas, together. So let's talk about a little Bucs football, man. And we'll start with first and foremost, the one that everybody keeps talking about. Did the Buccaneers make the right decision keeping Todd Bowles? What do you guys think?
Man, here's my thought. He's got the locker room. The players love him. I wish that if he would stay, he would give up his defensive calling and hire a defensive coordinator. I thought the Glazers were going to force him to do that because although he is acknowledged as a defensive guru, it certainly hasn't been demonstrated the past two or three seasons. I just don't understand. It's a big deal to be head football coach and then to call the defense. And I think he's lost a step. Rondé Barber recently criticized him, saying that his defensive scheme was just too complex for the players to follow. And I think I'm going way back in time. That was the problem Sam Weish had here when he was the offensive coordinator. It was too complex for the team to follow. Al, do you agree?
Here's my thing. And I do believe that the Glazers they like Todd Bowles. And I think he's created a very good culture there. But when it comes to his defense, I agree with Rondé. I mean, Rondé would know better than anybody, certainly better than I. And I don't think the Bucs, even in the early days, even in the Super Bowl year, the only time his defense really slammed the door on somebody was in the Super Bowl against Mahomes. And Brady. And the next year they play the Rams. Brady leads a comeback. They take a lead, or Todd, I can't remember off the top of my head, but they come storming back only to let the defense give it up late. And that has been my criticism of his defense. He has had game after game after game where his defense has given up leads late in the game and truly hampered development of this franchise. And when you look at what they've had, especially now getting Baker, and everyone criticizes Baker or a lot of people criticize Baker for having a bad second half of the season. And the situation is with Baker, he knows he's got to pile up points because the defense cannot come through and do their work on their side of the football to get this thing right. So I like Todd as a head coach, and as a coach that develops culture. It's obvious that the team does respond to him as a head coach, but I agree. The defense, it's time for a new voice as far as that defense is concerned, because I think they have pieces. They still don't have that pass rusher, but I do think they have some pieces.
Yeah, Al. A couple of things to what you said. First off, with Baker, he was injured the second half. I truly, I would have been happy if he sat a game or two earlier before they went into that long losing streak and let Teddy Bridgewater have a game or two. He was not physically the same quarterback that he was at the beginning of the season, because when he went down and was just hitting the ground as hard as possible, he was hurt. He was hurt, but he was, he's such a good competitor that he refused to give up and tried to play. And you got to love that about Baker, and that's what the team loves. I mean, one of the few quarterbacks that I have ever seen, when he hands off and there's a guy running, he doesn't stand there. He runs down the field and tries to block for the running back that he's handed the ball to. But I think that was a problem with Baker. And the thing that drove me crazy about Bowles' defense is he was blitz happy. At times it'd be 3rd and 15. You just got to get these guys off the field. But he would blitz, opening up the center of the field. How many passes were caught right in the center without a receiver anywhere around them, a defensive back around them, because they were all blitzing? And if you blitz, you must get the quarterback. Well, they would blitz, and their sack level was not at a high rate for the amount of blitzes that they did this year. I think that just killed them.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you just look at the schedule. They were 5-1 the year, and that included a win at Houston, a win at Seattle, and a win over San Francisco. 5-1. When you look at those teams they beat, and now look at what happened in the first, those teams go to the playoffs, they end up being really good teams. So the team was headed in the right direction. And you're absolutely right, Mike. Baker was hurt, was physically not himself. But he has shown over the years, he did it in Cleveland as well. He had that bad left shoulder and continued to play through that. So, all the things we love about Baker is also brings a negative as well, is that he simply will not walk off the field and allow someone else to play. So is what it is, and that's why I blame the defense for not doing more, especially late in the game when it's time to slam. I want them to have a defense that can slam the door on people, and they don't.
I mean, we've seen it. I mean, let's go back to the first Super Bowl win with Gruden. I mean, that defense was, lights out. I mean, you have 3 Hall of Famers on that defense with Zap Brooks and Rondé.
Every level.
Yeah, and and then you had Lynch. And then Simeon Rice, who, by the way, at his name unveiling is on the Wall of Fame, whatever you call it, up on the stadium, whatever we call it. I mean, he looked in good enough shape to play, and Lord knows we need an edge rusher. They don't make them like Simeon Rice, but someone down that road. Well, let me say one other thing about Simeon Rice, Alex. Somebody asked me about him. Every interview I did with him, and I really liked him. He was friendly, accessible, and all. I had no idea what the hell he was talking about. Even in the Super Bowl, when we were all in San Diego, and he said something philosophical. His head is someplace else. But as nice a guy and as rugged a player as I've seen for an edge rusher, and Lord knows if they can bring in someone who makes no sense when they talk but can sack people like Simeon, I'm all for it.
And Rich McKay stole him from Arizona.
Yeah, he did.
He was such a perfect fit on that defense. Rich left, and he and Gruden weren't seeing eye to eye. And I think that hurt this franchise as much as anything in letting McKay slip away. And the
I
Glazers,
agree.
I think, felt that, listen, Rich has done all this stuff and has helped us, in the sale, and helped us through and all that. Everything that he did, I think they felt that they owed him one and just let him leave. And they were going to put, push all the chips in on John, which made sense since he delivered them a Super Bowl. But
Right.
allowing Rich McKay to slip away. He, with Tony, built what they wanted: a Buccaneer, in a team, in a player. And at that time, it seemed like you had your defense, and then you had guys just below the starters that could step in and really add something and really be effective on the field, because they had a type of player that they wanted, that they drafted, that they were determined to get for that defense. And if someone went down, then someone else stepped up. And they lost that, I believe, when they lost McKay. And that was a turning point in this franchise when they let Rich McKay get away.
I agree. He was terrific. Let me tell you a funny story about Rich. When he was with the Bucs, I lived in a different house, but not far from where my house was that was destroyed by the hurricane. Anyhow, it was near St. Mary's school, which is a private school, and he would come down the road that was past my house to take his daughters to St. Mary's. I'd be walking the dogs every morning at the same time. He would take the wheel and turn it toward me like he was going to run me over, and then go, "I'm going to get you, Deeson." He'd roll down the window, "I'm going to get you, Deeson." But I loved Rich. He was a great guy and did wonders for this franchise. In many ways, this is going to be hard to say, more than his dad did, the original coach of the Bucs. It's an interesting juxtaposition.
I grew up in Seattle, and so this is long before the Seahawks and,
right,
and all that. So I grew up watching University of Washington football, and that was the team in the Northwest. And I remember watching them play a USC team that had O.J. Simpson, and O.J. Simpson just killed it. So when I first got to Tampa, I had met Coach McKay, and we talked, and we ended up building a very nice friendship. And I would go over periodically, not very often, but every now and then he would invite me over, and we would just sit and talk. And I picked his brain so much. He was brilliant. And I mean, especially with what I grew up with. And so he meant so much to me, because those USC teams
were unbelievable.
Were, my goodness, every year after year. I mean, we think, we look at Alabama, we look at, what Georgia has done, we look all the stuff in the South. But I'll tell you what, at that time, in the 60s, USC just buried people. And they had, NFL player after NFL player after NFL player on that roster. And I so enjoyed talking with Coach McKay. And I think one of the reasons he took a liking to me was the fact that I understood where he came from. I understood what he did at USC. It was fascinating. He was just, and he'd sit there on the porch, he'd have his stogie, and he was phenomenal.
Well, let me tell you, my favorite story about Coach McKay is before the Bucs won their first Super Bowl. We did some big special, and I arranged it through Rich to talk to Coach McKay. It was at the old One Buck place near the airport, which was just the worst.
Yeah.
It'd be like a team in a triple wide almost.
Mm-hmm.
But I got Coach McKay to say the most famous line. Yeah, I said, okay, you have been quoted as saying over years. And he said, I'll stop you. I'll stop you right here. I'll tell you what it is. They asked me, what did you think of the execution of our offensive line? And he said, I'm in favor of it. And he said, and I was. But I was so thrilled that I got that in. I think we even used it as a tease before my piece or something like that. But yeah, I was so thrilled I was able to get him to say that. He was very funny.
He was fun. He was really fun.
And, okay, let me ask you another crazy question. Don't you think he and Tom McCune looked alike? The sports,
and
sports writer for the Tampa Tribune, just in case anybody doesn't remember. But yeah,
very close.
Yeah,
they had that love-hate relationship.
That's right.
Going back and forth. So, yeah.
But they looked alike. He was a doppelganger, or they were for each other. Yes. So anyhow, that's going way back for the longtime Bucs fans.
No, those are awesome stories as always. You two together. It's like you two are back down memory lane, just sharing stories.
That's right.
Sharing stories and
one quick thing, Mike. Do you remember, when they're playing the Rams in St. Louis? You and I were sitting next to each other. I certainly remember in the press box. And that trip, I grew up in the Northwest. I spent a lot of time in Montana and around in mountain country where it's cold but I had never been as cold as I had been during those few days during that week. We were in St. Louis and we would have to go outside
right
and do live shots, and I had the car right next to me cranked up as far as I could with heat. And between takes, I'd have to jump in the car. I've never been that cold. Never, ever been that cold in my life.
Well, I have two other times, both football related, where I was. But then that one, the 11 o'clock live shot after we lost. Okay, let's set up. Al and I are in the press box. The Bucs are driving. What was it, 6-3 at the time? It was or 5. It was a low scoring game. Sean King is driving, and Al and I are looking at each other, and we're going, we're going to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, we said those words.
We said those words. Okay, and then there's the pass to Bert Emanuel, and there is an unbelievable timeout. Everybody in the press box. Do you recall? Everybody's going, what the hell is this all about? Nobody had a clue. I mean, it must have been 10 minutes, right, Al? Something like that. And then they ruled that it was not a catch, and it was like letting the air out of a balloon. It was, And then we were just devastated. But we had to do an 11 o'clock show that night after we lost. It was freezing cold. It was snowy. And I remember sidling up to Sue Zelenko, which was not a bad thing to do, to try to get the body heat off her coat and then squeeze in with her. And she was more than happy to get the body heat off of mine. So that was time one. But then there was also a time when the Bucs were threatening to move. I went to every NFL meeting and all, and I went to an NFL meeting in Cleveland in December. And so I had to do a stand-up at the old Memorial Stadium on Lake Erie. Yes. Again, it's snowing, the wind is blowing, and I could not get the words out for a cohesive sentence. And finally I got it right. And and I mean, we were out there forever. I kept screwing it up. And the photographer, Kurt Bibas, if you remember him now, Kurt says to me, he goes, Mike, you might want to do another take. Your hair looks like crap. And I went, listen, Kurt, I didn't swear. I got a complete sentence out. They did not hire me for pretty. Let's get the hell out of here. And Kurt looked at me and said, I could kiss you. If it was one of our female reporters, we'd be out here for weeks.
Oh my goodness.
But I was so cold there. It was painful. It was cold in St. Louis. But yeah, we thought we were going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, we said those words. We're going to the Super Bowl.
We were planning on booking flights to Atlanta because that's where the Super Bowl was. That was the freeze year in Atlanta, and we were going to take Cruz there, but it didn't happen. But yeah, that was a heartbreaker. That was the toughest locker room I've ever been in after a game to interview players. I mean, everybody was just devastated, you know. So, but also in Green Bay. Do you remember when the Bucs went to Green Bay?
Yes.
For their first playoff game under Dungy. And the same thing with the live shots. I would stay in the car, and Fred Shearer, who was a photographer with us, was so kind. He would set everything up and even do a mic check, and then he'd knock on the car and go, "Mike, you got to come out." No. But yeah, we're a minute away.
We turned into Florida boys.
We sure did. We sure did. Yeah. So anyhow, that was a long time ago. So
awesome
Like,
story.
you haven't worked. You haven't worked during this. We've just taken over your show.
That's
and,
I'm loving
I
every minute of
appreciate
it.
catching up with Mike.
I'm loving every minute of it. So I know Mike knew you was coming. I said Al's gonna be surprised when Mike comes on here. I know he's gonna be like, "What the hell?"
That's great. I'm just happy. I'm just happy to see him.
Yeah, I'm happy to see Al. That's great. So let's get back to the Bucs now, and we've got a brand new offensive coordinator.
Yeah, you got Zac Robinson from Atlanta Falcons, scrutinized by, I think Curtin Warner scrutinized him, said his plays were predictable, and he kind of ran the same ones over and over. What do you guys think about the hire?
Well, it certainly it worked with Kirk Cousins, and Kirk Cousins against the Bucs, and against that defense, and that was the only team that Kirk Cousins could do anything against. And so, and again, I had a long talk with Coach McKay about this. And he says, listen, you can have every scheme in the world, and, it doesn't matter. You've got to have the players. You've got to have the talent. You've got to have the horses. And if you have, and he said, this is a great line I'll never forget from him. He said, Rocky Bleier was a 1,000-yard rusher with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he was shot up in Vietnam.
That's right.
Right. That's a story right there.
So he says that should tell you. So, and that wasn't an insult at Rocky Bleier. It was just the truth. So it is about having talent, and if you have talent, then you've got it. Then they can run whatever you want to run. Definitely. So whomever, to me, if you were going to make a change with Bowles, you should have done it a year ago when you had Liam Cohen.
Right, because he could have been
Liam Cohen. Make him the head coach. Look what he did at Jacksonville, and look what he did with Trevor Lawrence. So, and there was a real connection there with him and Baker. So, to me, would have been a time when, if I'm the Glazers, I say, okay, now's the time to make a move. And, they certainly miss him. Canales, that kind of started. Right. That kind of started. And he had he had that relationship with Baker as well. And so, that, Bowles hires an offensive coordinator and that guy becomes a head coach. It isn't because of Bowles or anything that the Bucs did other than Baker, building a relationship with Baker, and Baker made that happen.
Yeah. And that's the one good thing with this hire. There is a relationship there. Yeah. From the Rams, and when he was also working with Cohen with the Rams. To me, though, okay, you got to have a quarterback, you got to have a receiver, but to me, the most important thing in a draft, and it's not sexy, but it's the beefy line on both sides of the ball. I mean, the number one thing we need is an edge rusher. I mean, if we don't draft an edge rusher as number one, I don't care who it is, the best edge rusher available when it's at, what are we, 14th? We picked 14th, something like that. Yeah. Whomever is the best edge rusher around, we better grab him. But if you have a line, let's go back to Rocky Blyer. He had that line that opened up the holes for him. I mean, there were holes big enough I could have run through. I mean, no, I'm serious. But you need that if there's that line that opens it up. And then from the defense, that's where you win, in my mind, championships. It's not sexy. Oh, they drafted a 350-pound lineman from, Utah State. Well, if he can block or if he can get through, that wins championships. And everybody gets enamored with the receivers and the quarterback. And you've got to have. Thank goodness we're in good shape with receivers, and I think that Baker will be fine. But we got to get some beefy guys on both sides of the ball and that edge rusher.
No, absolutely. I think they missed on a couple guys. If they don't take a edge rusher at 14 or 15, wherever they're at, and you got to acquire one via free agency or trade. I thought they missed out on a defensive edge rusher 2 years ago when the Minnesota Vikings were willing to give up Danielle Hunter for a third-round pick. Look how that turned out for the Houston Texans right now. That would have been the same trade that Jason Light made to get Jason Pierre-Paul. That essentially would have been the same exact thing for the same exact pick. And looking at Hunter, 16 or 17 sacks this season.
Right.
Missed opportunity. And I think, I like the job that Jason Light has done. I think he's built this team in a way to where you've got some pieces. Now, he knew that he needed help in that secondary.
Yes.
And so, he's made 10 picks on defensive backs, something like that over the last few years.
Yeah.
And criticize the defense for those defensive backs not being able to make plays, but that's because there's no one pressuring the quarterback.
Correct.
Right.
And so they're the ones that having to, pay the price for that. Again, I think the Bucs have pieces, and it's going to take I would come in with a new defensive coach, a new defensive coordinator, and let's see what he can do with those pieces.
No, absolutely. I've said this, I agree, especially with Mike when he was talking about up front. It's not sexy, but it's got to be done. I'll give you this. You guys are OGs to the game. I said, if it's not a proven fact, who are the starting corners for the New York Giants against the 17-0 Patriots? Can't name them. I said, but you can tell me who was on that defensive line, though, right?
Yeah,
that's it. Right.
Yeah.
Point proven. It works.
It does. Let me ask you guys a question. What about two big unknowns, Mike Evans and Levante David? Are they going to be back?
I'm really close with the David camp with Ron, who's Ron's agent. He's also Jaden Daniels' agent. Me and Ron talk about this a lot, and it's really up to Levante, and it's always been the same. He said if his body will allow him to play, he will play. And he said he was dealing with a knee injury last year. I'm not sure how the recovery is going. He's up in age.
He was off a step. There is no. I love Levante. But he was off a step last year. But if he had a knee injury,
and also if he's got a pass rusher in front of him,
that's true. That's true.
That can certainly help any knee injury that you might have, and if you've lost a step. Levante has been probably one of the top 5 Buccaneers of all time.
Absolutely.
So if he wants to come back, I think he's earned that right to at least come back and try. And if in training camp you see it's just not going to work, so then you go to him and you say, listen, it may be time just to step down.
Like they did with Derek.
Like they did with Derek. Right.
That's right.
He's earned that right. He has earned that right. So, and as far as Mike Evans is concerned, same thing. He's at. What's amazing is that he's put up the numbers that he's put up, and in the last few years, he's missed time with injuries.
Yes.
That's right.
And they aren't, he hasn't blown a knee. He hasn't blown out his shoulder, anything like that. It's, nickel and dime stuff, not that a hamstring or a groin can be nickel and dime stuff, but it's soft tissue stuff. And
Right.
it's stuff that, may be avoided or can be, it's not like wrecking up a knee
Right.
and stuff. But he still put in numbers, so he still has his moments. And I think he's a big enough Buccaneer legend, again, in that top 5, in that Mount Rushmore, that if he wants to play, he's earned the right to give it another chance, whatever that is.
No, my question is more his mental thought. Am I going to do this again for another season? Am I going to let my body? Because I mean, listen, my seats. I've been a season ticket holder for years. I've been in the press box, but my seats are on the second row and on the
at the 50.
30, 35. Okay,
all right.
But so I can hear when Mike got injured. I heard him shout an obscenity as he kicked an ice bucket. I was that close, But anyway, I see the punishment that all of these guys take, but particularly Mike, because they're targeting him, and he is so big that when he gets hit, he gets it right in the body. We forget the punishment that football players take. And so the question to me is, he's going to say, well, do I want to do this I know he's competitive as hell, but do I want to do this to my body for another year? I mean, he's going to be a first-round Hall of Fame pick. There's and probably Levante as well, but he might be saying to himself, it was a great run. The 1,000-yard stop last season. Now, he might want to come back and say, I want to show you I can still do this for one more season. But I don't know. I don't know what his mindset is.
He's earned that right. We talk about his career. He came to football late. He was a basketball player.
That's right.
And I believe he went to Texas A&M on a basketball scholarship. So, just an incredible athlete and a big, strong, fast man that can catch the ball and is tough. Again, he's earned that right to decide. You've got Chris Godwin, can he come back? You've got, last year's number 1 pick, who really turned in, Abuka Mekafor. That's his name, right?
Yeah.
Abuka.
Yeah,
Mika Buka.
Him.
Bibbidi bobbidi boo. Yeah, no.
Yeah. Number 2. Hey, 2. You.
He started off the season unbelievable.
Yes.
He slowed down at the end a bit there. I think they were targeting him more, perhaps. But, he had some drops that were catchable balls that he wouldn't have dropped at the beginning of the season. Who knows?
They have pieces.
Yeah.
They have some pieces.
Yeah. I'm sorry that Rachaad White left, but I understand it. He could catch a ball out of the backfield as well as anybody in the league. I mean, I thought he was really strong on that. And Bucky, let's hope that, Bucky stays healthy and is everything that we are hoping, because obviously he's the number 1 guy now. And I think he can catch balls out of the backfield, but not as good as White could, I believe, so, but now that everything turns to Bucky, and hopefully he's the man.
Yeah. White remind me a lot of the Chicago Bears, your hometown area, Matt Forte. Remind me a lot of Forte.
Right.
Big backs that have great hands. And then, of course, I'm sure you guys heard about his comments talking about fans in that stadium. Did you guys see that at all?
I didn't see that.
I didn't see.
White? Hold on, I got it right here. Actually, I'm gonna play it for you right now, because he was on Loose Cannon's podcast and they were talking about the fans in the stadium. All right, here it is. Let me play it for you.
Please stop letting other teams come in that home stadium regardless if I'm not there or not, and take over that stadium like that, bro. That's just horrible. That's not.
Wow.
So it's like when y'all talk on Twitter and all that, we just laugh because we can't even respect some of y'all because we don't even feel like y'all real fans because y'all just let the other team come in no matter who it is. I seen a lot of Jets fans in there. Like, come on, man, they gonna win a game. So like, you feel me? No disrespect at that time.
Yeah. But, here is the deal. Florida is a place people like to travel to when it gets cold up north. It used to be when we were in the Central Division that Green Bay would plan their whole trip to back to the old Tampa Stadium, the Big Sombrero. And they would bring in tours. I mean, tour operators would bring these folks in, and the whole east side of the stadium was Packer green. This is a place people like to travel to. Now, let me say, but there are a lot of hardy Bucs fans. For example, at the Atlanta game, I did not leave. I was soaked, but I had a great poncho on that final game. It was like watching a football game in a tent. But but no, we have some good fans, but this is a place that people like to travel to. I mean, it's Florida. You're up north. You're in New York City, and the Jets are coming here. And you go, well, I can spend a weekend in New York, or I could go down to Florida and see my team play. And
it's in December and January.
Yeah,
I mean, what better time to be in Florida than December and January? So every stadium you go to with team. I remember in Seattle, in Seattle, you'd have this, same things. Opposing teams would go up there, especially when they were playing in the Kingdome, and it was comfortable, and so every team has those times when they're not winning and they're not, having the success that they've had. When opposing teams are going to go in there, San Diego. Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
I worked in San Diego. And, that was a wonderful place to sit down and watch a football game in November, December, January.
Yeah.
So, I don't take too much of that, but, it's all about your team having success. And when your team has success and when your team is winning, it becomes the in thing to do, to go to a Bucs game, for local people here. So
yeah, what do they say? Winning cures everything, and that's a fact.
That is, but when you hear the stadium just screaming "Bucky, Bucky, Bucky," the fans are out there. Although when I think about it, they're screaming it. And we're on offense, and you want to be quiet so they can hear. So we don't have illegal procedure. You should never have an illegal procedure penalty at home. I mean, really. I mean, you should know the snap count. You should be able to hear it and all. But with the fans, some who are not knowledgeable are screaming "Bucky, Bucky, Bucky" while Baker's trying to call the plays, or even in the huddle. Somebody told me once the most distracting thing when the crowd is loud is hearing the play called in the huddle. That's what they found distracting, more so than the snap count. But nonetheless, I mean, the fans are there, but they don't always do the smart thing on something like that.
Here's a quick story. It had to be Tony's year, Tony's time with the Bucs, and excuse me, and there was a center. I will not say his name, but he's in the huddle, and they're getting ready to call a play and go out, and he says, "Listen, can we just hang in here just a second? And I have to pee." And he says, "And I can't leave the field. I can't leave, and all this stuff." And this is when they first started wearing those pewter pants. And and so they start giving him a bad time. Oh, everyone's gonna see it's the pewter pants. And he says, "Listen, when we sweat, it just looks like sweat." So doing his thing there in the huddle.
Oh, Al, you can't go out.
Yeah.
On that. Can't go out on that. What a cliffhanger, right?
Oh man.
But yeah, I'll keep us entertained till Al gets back. But I've heard, I've had teammates done that before. It was a rain game, and we had guys do that before. They peed on themselves in there because you can't leave.
Well, do you know at the end of Grammatica's time at the Bucs, they had a thing. They had a little trunk that they opened up that had a little porta potty in there, and they would gather around him with towels, and he would kneel and pee in that. I could see that. The other thing, and I think I told Al, I may have told you this. Do you know that when Tony Dungy was in high school in Jackson, Michigan, he was a quarterback on the high school football team, and I broadcast his games.
Really?
I was working for a radio station, WIBM in Jackson, Michigan. We did 4 football games. The town was crazed about football. On Friday nights, we would do one on AM, one on FM, and we would tape delay the other 2 to get all 4 high schools in town. And I was one of the play-by-play guys. And I mean, I didn't know who Tony Dungy was then. But when he came here and they did his resume, and in Jackson, Michigan, in whatever year it was, I went, holy crap. I broadcast some of those games when he was the quarterback. So, the wildest thing, I don't know if it was his team, one of the Jackson high school teams had a game in Ypsilanti, Michigan, that is adjacent to Ann Arbor, where the University of Michigan is, but it's a little bit lower in topography. Well, it was a Friday night, and I'm in the booth, and first of all, the athletic director got irritated with me because to plug in the stuff that I had to do to broadcast back then, I had to unplug his coffee pot. The athletic director was unhappy. But anyhow, the fog rolls in, Blake, and I cannot see much past the 40-yard line on either side. I mean, it's just as foggy. So I got some of the high school kids, and I said, you're going to be part of broadcast history. So I got about, 6 of them. And they would run up. They'd be on the field, and then they would run up and go, number 43, 5 yards off the right. And then I would recreate it and go, and whatever number 43's name was, there's a handoff to blah, 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 blah. And he goes, 5 yards. Oh, yeah. And they would shuffle back and forth, whispering in my ear what the play was, and I would recreate it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But baseball in Chicago, they used to broadcast all sorts of baseball games on, I think it was WCFL before it became a rock station, whatever station it was. And they would recreate the game off the wire. And so they'd be getting the wire stuff. And they had a little wooden bat that they would pull back and would hit against another wooden thing for the crack of the bat. And so they would recreate the game, waiting for each pitch to come on the wire so they could broadcast ball games from all around the country and never be there. Early days of broadcast history. So that's
it's amazing what the creativity that a lot of you guys had at that time, because technology wasn't as advanced as now.
No. The thought that we can do something like this, it just in the old days, when I was in Virginia and I was a reporter there, I was a political reporter, and I covered the Capitol in Virginia. This was back in the film days. I'm old. And we would have to finish our story in Richmond. I worked in Norfolk, Virginia, by noon to get it to the Greyhound station by 12:15. So the bus would get to Norfolk before 3:00, so they would make the 3:00 film run at the TV station. I don't know how we got anything on air back in those days, but yeah, it has come a long way, and with the instant replay and the yardage what do they call that thing? Where they check the yardage electronically on a first down.
Digital.
Yeah, the digital yardage marker. I mean, you know what? Here's something I've thought. This is off the topic, but we're talking about the digital marker. There is enough technology where they could have a laser-like device, and I'm not smart enough to tell you what it was, on one side of the field, on the other, on the yardage markers, where there could be a yellow line on the field, so everybody could see. That would be a great advancement for the fans. So for the yellow line across the field, it can be done. I'm not, like I say, I'm not smart enough to tell you how to do it. But so, for example, what I do when I'm watching the game, and there's a running play, I always watch the line judge. Okay, I'm on the west side of the stadium. I watch the line judge on the east side. A little tip for fans in the stands: you can see where the ball is going to be spotted because he stops. Okay, so if he stops in front of the first down marker, I go, yeah, they made a first down. Behind it, they didn't make it. But it would be a fan enhancement to have the yellow line or some line that the fans in the stadium could see. Maybe I'll tell that. I'll tell that to the. Did I tell you? Speaking of football, not this year, but last year for the opening game, the Washington game a year ago, not this season, the season before, Brian Glazer invited me to the Glazers box to watch the game.
Oh, really?
Oh, my goodness. I have been in luxury boxes before. This was not a luxury box. This was a New York apartment that happened to have one wall open up on a football field. It was so plush. They were so nice. I was so honored to be there, and a little monitor at every seat. But, food and drink and then like little dens with TVs all around. It was spectacular. And so I have to thank Brian Glazer, who has always been really nice to me. After the Bucs won the first Super Bowl, I saw Brian in the locker room in San Diego, and he goes, I said, congratulations. He goes, can an owner hug a reporter? I said, absolutely. And he gave me a big hug. And then that following season, when the Bucs were doing workouts at Wide World of Sports in Disney, Brian had the Super Bowl ring, and he showed it to me, and he said, you want to see it? And I said, yeah. He said, you want to wear it? I said, well, sure. He said, go ahead. He said, I know where you are. So I was wearing Brian's. I was telling Blake, Al joined us again, I'm happy to say, that not this season before, Brian Glazer invited me to the owner's box for the opening game. It's not like any other luxury box you've ever been in. I told Blake it was like a New York apartment that happened to have one wall that opened on a football field. But enough with my stories. You left us. You had a technological.
Yeah, we were ready for this.
Yeah, we had the cliffhanger. So we got the center who has got to pee. They're wearing pewter pants. Right. Back to Al.
Yes. And again, I'm not going to tell you who,
Yeah, no, that's all right.
But he did. He surrounded him a little bit, and he did it very quickly. And, as far as the players are concerned, that's a legendary story.
Was Dilfer the quarterback? I mean, whoever the quarterback has to put his hands underneath his leg. Or was it Sean King?
I think it was Sean King. And I think that next series, he was in a shotgun.
Of course.
For good reason.
Yeah, for very good reason.
He said, I think we're going to audible out of this run play. We're going to go to shotgun on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. What a great story. What a great story.
That's awesome. All these stories, man, are great, and it just shows you the history and the way that things change from era to era. And we're kind of waiting for now with this Bowles era, whatever happens after that, they're trying to get back to this culture, get back to winning, get back to a solid defense. And I know everybody says this, but in my opinion, I think this is a make it or break it year for this team to either go over the hump or kind of fall behind a little bit. What do you guys feel about that?
Well, Bowles is going to go into this season, and every time the Bucs have a 3-and-out or they give up a touchdown, especially if they give up a touchdown, talk about him being fired at the end of the year is going to dominate everything. So it's going to be a lame duck season, and I think the Glazers know that. I think the Glazers realize that. I think they looked at the landscape. What was it? 9 teams were looking for head coaches.
Yeah,
Right.
9
still
teams.
looking.
So yeah, and most are still looking. And so if the Bucs do it, it's now 10. So are there 10 true candidates out there, really good candidates,
Good point.
to run your football team? And I think they decided, listen,
What
it
do
ain't
they
going to
call
work
that?
this year.
Oh, and also because he has the team. He's got the support of the team too. I think that's if he didn't have the locker room, he would have been
Oh, he'd
gone.
be
I
out
think.
there.
Yeah. I think this is a make or break year, and I think they have to not only get to the playoffs, they have to at least win one game.
Yep.
Yeah. I think. I mean, look at Sean McDermott. Getting fired.
That's a bet, though.
I could not believe it. But anyhow, getting to the playoffs, I don't think saves Bowles' job. I think winning at least one game is mandatory for him to keep his job. What do you think, Al?
Well, Todd likes to go around, and what he said, here at the end after the season, he was beating his chest about saying, hey, I won 3 straight NFC South titles. That ought to account for something. I would not brag about that personally, because it's been the worst division in football for a lot of years. And to me, he should. I mean, if he's even close to doing his job, he should win this division.
You guys both know my son Andrew. You know what he said to me? We were talking about the Bucs winning the division, and I was surprised he knew this because he's your age, Blake, but he knew the relevance of it. He said, "Dad, the South is like Old Yeller. It needs to be taken out in the back and shot."
Oh my goodness! Yeah. That says it well.
That says. But I was surprised he knew Old Yeller. You know Old Yeller, Blake? No, I know you do, Al. But Blake and Andrew are the same age. Okay, did you cry?
Yeah, it was sad.
It was sad. Anyway, yeah. But
that Bucs defense many times makes me cry.
Oh God!
at the end of a game.
What did you say? Yelling on the sideline. 3rd and 28. 3rd and 28 when they converged that. He was hot.
Yeah. I know.
The culture. I will agree with that. Okay. I'm not the biggest, I'm not the biggest Bulls fan, but he's built a culture, and I'll give him that. So,
you gotta keep doing it.
But you got to keep doing it, and you got to do it. I mean, if anything, should have a stellar defense because that's his calling card.
Right.
And that's what I just, I think Ronde Barber is so right. And again, they've tried so many different things. They haven't gotten the stud pass rusher.
Thank you.
And so that everything just goes downhill from there. And, you can get all the defensive backs that you want. And, it's like 10 and 4 or 5 years, whatever it is. And it still hasn't worked. So it's the guy up front.
It is. Sometimes I'll sit there and count as the quarterback. Okay, I go 1,001. If I'm getting 1,005, 1,006, any NFL quarterback should be able to complete a pass.
Kirk Cousins.
Right, absolutely. Right. So I get to 1,006 way too many times. It should be 4. If they've got to get to him before I hit 4, I think.
Yes. You're right.
So and they couldn't.
Leroy Selman.
Yeah.
You get to 2.
But Leroy, there's that. Yeah.
Built this. That's what this franchise was built upon.
You're absolutely right.
Yep. And I know it's easy to point at the 0-14 and didn't win this and couldn't do that. But when they made that jump, it was because of defense,
Right.
and stuff. So, and I think offensively, the only reason they have been in games is because Baker's Baker.
Right.
Baker would make a gutsy play, and that's why he has his team, the locker room.
Right.
They have jumped aboard Baker. Well, Baker didn't have the best second half of the season, but I put myself in Baker's shoes thinking, roll up major points here because I'm not confident we can hold on at the end.
Right.
And that's what it's, and, next season, the Glazers will be in for that kind of year. And, and I look at Zac Robinson. Zac Robinson has had his moments, elsewhere in the league.
Right.
And I think he's sitting back thinking, well, listen, if things go south, and I've got Baker and we can roll up some offensive numbers, I could be the next head coach
Absolutely.
of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think that was part of the lure of him coming to Tampa Bay and being part of this coaching staff. But this whole next season will be, as you say, make or break. It's now or never time. Will be that all that stuff. And the Glazers just didn't want to be the 10th team on the list. For a coach.
Right.
With no answer.
One other big thing was, and I know we're almost out of time because I got to run anyhow because for Little League.
Yeah.
But hiring a new special teams coach was mandatory. Jeez, our special team so bad that we had to give them the ball at the 35-yard line because we didn't trust our special teams. How many field goals were blocked? How many punts were blocked? The special teams, thank goodness. And we've got an experienced guy. He's old, but, now that Tom Moore retired, we've got to have some old guy on.
Why?
But he did a great job in Pittsburgh. I mean, he's got the experience, but we really needed that because the special teams points we gave up this year, if we went back and looked at it, I think we'd be shocked. Yeah, terrible. I really do. You don't think about that as part of your game, but that really is an integral part.
Yes.
Well, Baker takes him to a lead or takes, within one score or whatever.
Right.
This season, especially
the guy
the
runs it back on the kick to the 50.
On the ensuing kickoff. Now all of a sudden,
what are y'all doing?
Field goal range after the kickoff coming back. So
absolutely,
that happened way too often.
Yeah,
way too often, and that's on. That's part of Todd's staff, and I trail that back to Todd because he's the head coach. I agree. Well, hey guys, I hate to say it, but I've got little league practice with my grandson, I love doing this. We didn't get to half your agenda, Blake.
Awesome.
But Al, it's so good seeing you. You don't look
always good seeing you, bud.
You don't look any different from the first day you walked in the station.
Just a little more gray, but it's all mine.
Yeah, that's well, and my beard, got
there you go.
the gray, but I attribute my good luck to good genes and Bombay gin. So
there you go, and not in that order.
Not in that order. So I'm sorry I have to run, but I'd love to do it again. Al, take care. If you ever come back to Tampa, we got a guest room here. I'm serious about that. Okay.
Hey, Mike, before you get out of here, you want to tell everybody what you got going on, your book and whatever project?
Oh, yeah. Life is, let's see. I have a book called Bad News for You is Good News for Me. It recounts my 50 years in broadcasting. And I do a podcast called The Third Opinion with another woman. We've done 350-hour podcasts. It's for Tampa Jewish Federation. I'm Jewish, and we deal a lot with anti-Semitism. I speak to foreign journalists through the State Department, and the most important thing I do is pick up my grandson from school every day and coach his Little League team, which won the championship last
Hey.
year. So, yeah.
There you go. A motivator of little men.
Try to be. And when you got 8-year-olds on, man, that's good exercise for me. It's like herding cats. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
So anyhow,
Mike, love having you. We got to do this again. Love having you both on. Love the stories. Love the connection. It was like you didn't miss the beat, and I was just happy I was present for it. But,
well, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
It's great seeing you again, Blake. You do a great job, and you do things the right way. And Mike, it's always, it's like family. It goes.
I agree. It goes way back. That's right. Okay, guys. Thanks, Blake. Thank you.
Yep. We'll end this as we always do. You're the master of everything. What you do with your life, what you do with it is entirely up to you. See everybody next time. See you.